Oh, I love that lead-in music. Welcome to Rick Drasin Live. I'm your host, Rick Drasin, and we're going to talk about nutrition, body mechanics, and how to keep yourself in shape, how to burn body fat, how to build muscle, because the average person out in the world today, like yourself, really wants to stay in shape, but you're clueless what to do. I mean, there's so many different variables and so many different people that write about it and talk about it and different responses and different arguments that we've got it down. I mean, we've been training for years and years and years. We got this down to a science. And my guest today, international bodybuilder and biomechanics expert, Doug Brignole. And I'm so happy to have Doug here.
Great to be here. Thank you very much.
Doug is a very knowledgeable person. We've known each other for years, but we met years ago. And we started talking recently about coming on the show and talking about what works in the body and what doesn't. So we're going to talk about this for the next 15 or 20 minutes, and we're going to figure out what works for him, what worked for me, and what can work for you. Because over the years, people have asked me, they said, can you use the same diet that's used in the 70s on your body? And how can you not? I mean, it's the same body.
It's the same body.
And the diet's going to work today, it's going to work then, and nothing changed. There's no new moving parts in here.
That's right.
You know?
That's
so
right.
it's going to work. But it's how you attack your body and how you work out that makes it work. So I just want to start a little bit about you, and you tell me, when did you begin training? What year was that?
I started in 1974. I was 14 years old. I got bit by the bug, as they say. I was going to the magazine stores, and I found these bodybuilding magazines, and Richard Baldwin and Frank Zane and all those guys inspired me. And I just went to the local gym, Bill Pearl's gym. And
was he on Green Street?
He was on Green Street, exactly, right next to a restaurant called Maldonado's.
Right.
And I couldn't afford membership, so I asked Bill if he would allow me to scrub his showers, do janitorial work for him on the weekends. That's funny. In exchange for membership.
I want you to go, but I did the same thing in Bakersfield. I went to Babe's gym, and I asked Babe, because I couldn't afford the gym, if I could scrub his back.
Yeah.
And he said, you can scrub my back, and then you can clean the floors, and you got a membership. So go on. All right.
Well, that's exactly what I did. I went in there every Saturday, and I did janitorial work. I polished the chrome machines.
Yeah.
And I would earn my week's membership in advance. And the cute part of that story is that I was always hard-headed. You know, Bill had these recommendations, and I kind of always took it with a grain of salt. Some things I decided to follow, some things I decided not to. I think I probably angered Bill a little bit. But 11 years after I started, when I was winning the Mr. Universe competition, Bill Pearl was one of the judges. And he must have thought to himself, that little kid scrubbed my showers 11 years ago, and if I hadn't done that, maybe he wouldn't be standing there right now.
Yeah, that's very true.
So I took it and ran.
But Bill was a very inspirational person. He had a hell of a body.
Yeah.
And I trained in his gym, but I trained in his gym in Inglewood.
Right.
When he was on Manchester.
Right.
So it was all really a hardcore homemade stuff.
Yeah, right.
I had my best workouts in there, and his brother Harry, I don't know if you met Harry.
Harry, of course, he worked there, yeah.
Harry was a strange character.
He was definitely different than Bill.
Yeah, different than Bill, much bigger than Bill, never competed.
Right.
But
he was kind of a hippie.
Yeah, very much so.
Long hair and the whole bit. Yeah, and Bill was very conservative and proper.
Yes.
Military crew cut.
Well, those days, learning from Bill, because I always trained at 5 in the morning,
right,
regardless of anything,
right,
and learning the routines, which were basic routines at the time.
Yeah.
But it worked. It just worked.
Yeah.
You know, it's back to basics. Now today things have changed and evolved with balls and you know, going across the gym and all the stuff you're supposed to be doing. But it's not really bodybuilding stuff as far as I'm concerned. You know, it's cardio workouts and everything else. We didn't even do cardio back then. There was no machines.
Right. There was no bikes.
There was no bikes. There's no treadmills. There's no pre-cores. None of that stuff.
Right.
Your cardio just came from breathing hard.
From squats.
From squats.
High rep squats. Yeah,
high rep squats.
Exactly, yeah.
So back in those days when you trained, what was your routine like? Was it just basic?
Well, yeah, the equipment was rudimentary, so you know we used whatever we had, and in the very early stages we didn't, as you said, no cardio whatsoever, and then it was right around 1983 that Life Cycle was invented, and that's when we started doing some cardio. But to be honest with you, I always discovered that I got better results without doing cardio, and that's because I tend to be an ectomorph. I tend to be a small-framed guy, and I spend too many calories. I get hypoglycemic, low blood sugar very easily.
So do I.
So for me, spending as few calories as possible, in other words, keeping the workout as short as possible, is what keeps me large and lean.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Because someone said, how'd you keep your waist so small and have abs back in those days? I didn't eat any carbs.
Right.
Well, where'd you get the energy from? I got it from maybe egg yolks or some fats.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I trained heavy and I trained short spurts.
Right.
But the rest was diet, complete diet. And even at 11 o'clock at night, I'd have a cheese omelet, which is all protein.
Right.
And I'd sleep on that, so that would increase my metabolism as well.
Right.
Was it hard for you to motivate yourself to get in shape, or you just went to the gym, or what?
Oh, I was obsessed.
Yeah.
you could say I was motivated.
Yeah.
But an obsession is really, it just takes over. It pulls you forward, right? So
Yeah.
it's not like, I had to resist the urge to go to the gym. I just couldn't hold back. So I would go there and typically overtrain in the early stages.
I think we all overtrain.
Yeah.
It's so easy to do.
You just keep adding things. You see a new exercise, you just add it.
Yeah, you don't take anything away.
You don't take anything away.
Pretty soon your half-hour workout's an hour and a half.
I was doing 40 sets sometimes per body part.
I've done it.
It's insane. Yeah, I'm sure you have.
I was falling asleep at stoplights driving home. I was like, there's another stoplight. How was your diet back then? What kind of nutrition did you do?
Well, my earliest diets, and by the way, I'm kind of reverting back to that now.
Yeah.
I've kind of gone full circle. It was a zero fat. Back then, we didn't know about glycemic index.
Right.
We only knew complex carbs, simple carbs. So, I knew that a complex carb was rice, right? A polysaccharide.
Right.
So I left the rice in, and I took out the fruits and the simple sugars.
Right.
And then the Zone came out, and Atkins came out, and in my opinion, they kind of overcomplicated things.
Yeah.
I kind of went that way, and I started going the way of more fats and fewer carbs, and it didn't work for me, because for me, I have to have the carbs to help the insulin push the protein into the muscle and keep the glycogen stores up. And as soon as I started dropping those carbs, to be honest with you, I retired from bodybuilding in 2011 thinking my body didn't do what it used to do. Well, that's because I wasn't doing what I had done before. Now I've kind of gone back, and now it's doing what it used to do again.
Okay. So you do the carbs or you don't?
So now I bring the carbs back in and I keep the fats out. Yeah, that works for me.
Do you think that the carbs, throughout the day, towards the evening, do you drop your carbs then?
Well, here's the thing, is that it depends an awful lot on your individual genetics.
Right.
And depends a lot on your activity.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to make the blanket statement that carbs are good for everybody. Carbs are not good for everybody. Carbs are good for someone like me with a fast metabolism in a small bone frame who exercises super intensely and spends a lot of glucose.
Okay.
I happen to do that in the evening.
Okay.
So when I come home, this is going to sound crazy. I come home and I take a cup of water, put it in the microwave, and pour a bunch of honey into. And that's the first thing I do is I bring some of that glucose back in.
Okay.
Because I'll be catabolic if I don't do that.
Okay. You start eating up muscle.
Right. And so then I have a nice big bowl of pasta, and I do this entirely because of my activity level and my genetics.
Okay, it makes perfect sense.
But I wouldn't recommend that as a blanket statement.
No, not really. But what about after your workout, when you have your post-workout drink? I was always told that you want to add some sugars at that time. Like someone said, eat gummy bears.
Yes,
because it
I
raises
agree.
the insulin and drives it back in. Right?
We've been I don't want to say we've been misled, but a lot of people believe the most important thing to take in after a workout is protein.
Yeah.
And I just don't believe that's true anymore. I think that there's enough amino acids floating around in your system that can still be absorbed into the muscle. What's missing at that point is glucose.
Okay.
So I think you need to bring your glucose back up again, get out of that hypoglycemic state, because if you're in a hypoglycemic state after your workout, you're going to produce cortisol. And
Okay.
cortisol is designed to
fat.
produce glucose internally by breaking down muscle tissue. So it's almost like you're trying to fill a bucket with muscle, but you've got holes on the bottom of it and you're losing it at the same time.
I see.
So you really have to plug up those holes first.
All right, so for example, I have a high-protein breakfast. I have my oatmeal, my egg whites, and a
Yeah.
little protein drink. I train, and then I think afterwards I need to replenish my muscle with some protein, but I add a little bit of sugar, not sugar, but stuff that has a sugar substance in it to
Yeah.
help drive that.
I agree.
Okay, so
I
it's
agree.
okay to mix those two at that point.
Well, yeah, I had always heard that the post-workout meal is the most forgiving.
Yeah.
Meaning that you can get away with eating sugar. But I think it's more than that. You actually need it.
Okay.
If you don't take in sugar after your workout, especially if you just spent a lot, now that's critical.
Yeah.
If you do some pansy little workout and you're not spent,
Right.
then you're not replacing anything that you've spent.
Makes
You've
sense.
got to be depleted
Okay.
in order to bring that, to make use of that.
What about, what age do you think testosterone drops out of your system?
40.
Okay.
That's the average age.
That's the average age. Do you feel that at 40 on, 50, 60, that you should supplement that with some sort of an injection of testosterone?
Yes.
Okay, I do too.
I do. It makes perfect sense. Women have been doing estrogen replacement therapy for years, right? If you're diabetic and you don't produce enough insulin, you'd be foolish not to replace the insulin that you're not producing.
Exactly.
We're not talking about doing something weird. We're just talking about bringing back something that was missing.
Exactly. Well, I did the estrogen replacement for the first 40 years.
Yeah.
And then now the second 40, I'm doing the testosterone.
And you had terrible results.
Oh, I got so good at decorating houses and picking out pink outfits.
Your voice got a little higher.
A little bit higher. Now with testosterone's dropped.
And he used to cry in
and I'm
sad
dressing in
movies.
black nowadays. I think that testosterone does help a lot in many, many different ways.
Yeah. And it used to be stigmatized.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, we grew up in this era where there was this book called Death in the Locker Room.
Yep.
And it would say that, and I remember when Ben Johnson was said to have had taken steroids in the Olympics, that he had a jaundiced look in his eye. Well, the irony, of course, is that they've now used steroids in the weakest populations, the AIDS populations, the aging population,
Right.
with positive effects and relatively no negative effects. And whereas once upon a time they would say that if you took testosterone, it would be a cardiac risk. Now they're giving you testosterone to avoid a cardiac risk.
However, yesterday on the news, they said the recent studies show that men take testosterone risk serious heart attacks.
Well, too much.
Too much.
I
but
agree with you 100% on that.
if you're taking too much.
Yes.
But what's too much? I mean, I know guys that take 300 milligrams a day. And
Well, the blood test tells you what's too much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. I just think it's a necessity. I've talked to people who grew up with me who are afraid to take it. You know, they say, oh my God, it's a steroid. There's a lot of different types of steroids. It's testosterone.
And then they take these testosterone boosters that are actually less healthy.
They don't even do anything. I did the gel. I rubbed it off on my cat. My cat got huge. So, now there's one more thing I want to talk about, because you have a video and you had me watch it on spot reduction. I don't believe, and you don't believe, that you can do a spot reduction on the body. Women come to me, men come to me. I just want to lose this little bit here. I want to lose here. I want to lose this right here. It doesn't come off by itself.
Right. Fat comes off the body in the reverse order that it came on.
Yeah.
Period. Either the fat loss switch is on or it's off. Right. If you're in fat loss mode, it's going to come off exactly the same way in reverse that it came on.
Right.
Right? You didn't determine how it was going to come on.
No.
You didn't say, I want to gain it here first and here second.
It just showed up over the weekend.
Right. And then it just comes off in the reverse order.
Yeah.
So it really is silly when someone comes to us and they say, I want to work on this and I want to work on that, because what they're talking about is not muscle. They're saying fat. I want to work on this means I want to lose fat there.
Right.
And you can't do that.
No, and I watch your thing on abs. I work abs every day out of guilt. It's not because I know I'm going to spot reduce. It's just, I got to do my abs. And I've always had good abs. But I know if I work them too hard, they get big. And when they get big, they get round. And then my pants get tight, and then I'm 4 months pregnant. Just from big abs, it's not fat.
Uh-huh.
So I'm cutting down just a couple of times a week. Like I think actually will even help take the muscle down a little bit.
Right.
But you can't spot reduce
Well,
there.
the video that I showed you was a video that had a guy doing leg raises for the lower ab.
Right.
And so what I was explaining was that there really is no separate lower ab muscle, number one. And he was doing them every day. And so I said, so you can't add notches because those notches are actually genetically there. In other words, everyone has abs, even though you might not be able to see them. Everyone has a fibrous divider in that sheet of muscle.
Right.
You can't add a fibrous divider just like you can't add a ligament.
Yeah, it's like another shelf.
Right, exactly. So you can't do lower abs to add ridges, and you can't do lower abs to spot reduce. So it's ridiculous to do lower abs at all. But the reason people do it is because they tend to accumulate fat in the lower section.
Exactly.
And so it's wishful thinking. But, a lot of decisions in fitness are emotional. And I suspect that you're doing abs every day, was, to some degree, a habit that was hard to break.
It's an emotional. I wake up crying about it,
Yeah,
So I need to do
especially when
something.
you were taking your estrogen.
Exactly. So it's just a feeling that it feels good to do my abs, because I feel I've accomplished my workout. This is the end
it's
result.
complete.
It ties my shoe, and then I can leave.
That's right. It's like putting the cap back on the bottle.
There you go.
You can't leave it off.
No, but there is no such thing as spot reducing. You lose overall.
Absolutely, yes.
And some people gain weight. They gain it in their face first. They lose it in their face first. My face always stays the same, very handsome and taut. So it's due to the diet.
Yes, we all envy tremendously.
Yes, and we should. All right, so if you had to give somebody over 40, over 50 a tip on how to control their body and what to do for it, what would be the thing you'd have them do?
Well, I think broadly what I would say, and I would say this to people under 40 as well, and that is forget about how much weight you're lifting. High reps.
Yes.
Much better for you, much better for your joints, especially as you get older. This heavy weight stuff is an ego thing, right?
Sure.
It doesn't produce muscle size the way high reps do, doesn't produce endurance, doesn't burn as many calories, harder on the joints, higher risk of tearing a muscle. It's just, especially beyond the age of 40, it's just a foolish thing to do.
Yeah. I agree with you.
If you can't do 20 reps for a given set, it's too heavy.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
I know. I used to curl with 65-pound dumbbells. Now I do the 20s, and they feel like 65s.
Yeah. Well, my workout is pretty unconventional. My first set, and by the way, I do one exercise per body part, per workout. That's it. 50 reps on the first set, 40 reps on the second, 30, 20, 15, 10, increasing weight on each set.
Right.
50 reps is murder.
It's murder.
It's murder. I mean, like I'll start off with a 25-pound dumbbell.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot of weight, but boy, by the time you get to 30 and 35 reps, that pack is screaming.
Well,
I've gotten better results with this
I
one
liked
than
it, but
me.
I lose track after 9. You know, I can only count
Yes,
to 9
I
on
know.
this
Well,
hand.
we don't have your disadvantage.
Yes, I know. Well, we could go on forever and ever, and we don't have a lot of time to do it, but I think we hit some key points that I think are really important.
Yeah.
And if you people out there watching and you want to learn, I mean, Doug really knows it. Where can we find you on the internet? Say somebody wanted to email you or find you. How?
Well, my website is dougbrignole.com.
Okay.
My email is dbfitness@aol.com. I'm on Facebook. But yeah, I'm working on a book right now. It's my second academic book. The first one I co-authored. It's actually a sociology book, which I was asked to participate in. But my second one is about biomechanics. And it's about the 15 principles, the 15 rules that determine what makes an exercise good or not. In other words, they're not all equally good and equally bad. And there are certain principles, mechanical principles, that you can easily use as a checklist to go right on down the line and say, well, this one qualifies in all of them, so it's a good one.
Right.
This one qualifies in only half, so it's not as good.
Yeah. I like that idea a lot. Well, I want to thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
I have
Great.
one more thing to bring up. If you would bring up my bear, please, Vincent. I want to share this with everybody out there because see that little bear right there? It's Valentine's Day coming up, and BigPlush.com is having a special on these 5 and 6 and 7 foot bears, gorillas, giraffes, all types of stuffed animals that you can get your loved one or somebody you find special for Valentine's. You got 2 weeks to do it. You can get a T-shirt on it. It says that one says my workout buddy, and you go to BigPlush.com, and that bear is there for you to order, and use the name Rick Drasin. Tell them they sent you, and they'll send you a 7-foot rose that goes with it.
Or you could do it you could buy it for yourself and just pretend it's for your loved one.
I bought it. I bring it in my car, and I'm able to use the fast lane on the freeway because I have another person sitting next to me. But thank you for watching Rick Drasin Live. It's been a pleasure with Doug Brignole, DougBrignole.com. Look him up. This man's a genius. I look up to him. He's my hero of the day. And thanks for watching. And come back next Friday at 12:30 on emPOWERme.tv and watch Rick Drasin Live. And stay tuned next at 1 o'clock for Tough and Tender with my co-host, Ina Tuller. We're going to talk about relationships, the good, the bad, the ugly, and how to get around them and how to be happy. See you next time. Hi, I'm Rick Drasin. For tips on health,
Beautiful.
and fitness and bodybuilding and wrestling and all the stuff you want to know, subscribe to me on emPOWERme.tv. I'm on every Friday at 12:30 p.m. I'm looking forward to meeting you. And stay healthy.